This presentation is called Building Community Bridges, Supporting Youth with Disabilities and Mental Health Challenges. And this topic is extremely close to my heart as someone with a disability and as someone that's a mental health professional that works with youth with disabilities. And so tonight's agenda is pretty short, just introducing what community bridges are, understanding disabilities in children and adolescents, and how having disabilities affects development, focusing on the common mental health challenges that you face, the barriers to inclusion and support when working with youth and with disabilities in the educational arena, the role that schools play, how community partnerships can provide support, strategies for teachers and educators, strategies for parents, families, and caregivers, the role of community and leaders and school leaders, and then conclusion and question and answer. So, a couple of statistics. Schools and communities play a vital role in supporting in inclusion and intervention when working with youth with disabilities. According to the CDC, 1 in 6 children in the United States has a developmental disability. 50% of mental illnesses begin before the age of 14, according to the World Health Organization. So, what are community bridges? Community bridges are collaborative efforts that connect families, educators, healthcare providers, and social services to help play a crucial role in promoting and advancing the mental well being and inclusion for individuals with disabilities. How do disabilities impact social development? So, one of the most significant barriers that youth with disabilities face is societal stigma and exclusion. And often there's a stigma surrounding both disabilities and mental health. And this leads to loneliness and it leads to them not fitting in with their peer groups. According to the World Health Organization, individuals with disabilities are often marginalized, leading to limited participation in social, educational, and employment opportunities. And this exclusion can result in lower self esteem, social isolation, and reduced access to critical developmental experiences. The impact on emotional development. Disabilities also affect emotional development in youth, leading to an increase in vulnerabilities to emotional difficulties and mental health problems. Children with disabilities may experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and low self esteem. They may also struggle with regulating their emotions properly, understanding the emotions that they're experiencing, and expressing them, and also dealing with the stressors in their lives. And these challenges can further impact their social interactions with others and their overall well being. Making and maintaining friendships can also be challenging, especially if their disability affects their communication, mobility, or social skills. They may experience, as I stated before, loneliness or difficulties fitting in with their peer groups. Depression and anxiety rates tend to be higher amongst youth with disabilities due to the barriers they face socially, the discrimination they experience, and their struggles with finding their independence. So, access to counseling, peer support services, and inclusive communities significantly can improve their well being. The impact on their cognitive development. Cognitive development also is influenced by a variety of factors, including the nature of the disability, the level of support that's available, and the environment that they're in. Children and adolescents with cognitive, intellectual, or learning disabilities often face unique challenges in information processing, memory retention, problem solving, and adaptive functioning. And these challenges may affect their performance academically, their social skills and interactions, and their ability to emotionally regulate. Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests that children progress through distinct stages of learning. However, for youth with intellectual disabilities especially, progression through these stages may occur at a slower pace or require specialized instructional methods. Research shows that individualized education plans, or IEPs, and early intervention strategies are essential in promoting the cognitive development in youth with disabilities. Mental health challenges amongst youth have been rising in recent years, influenced primarily by social, environmental, and biological factors. According to the World Health Organization, mental disorders accounted for a significant portion of the global disease burden in adolescents, and people with disabilities are at a higher risk for depression and anxiety due to the barriers that they face. And the presence of chronic pain, mobility restrictions, and difficulties accessing resources can further exacerbate these conditions. The most common mental health issues amongst teens include, but are not limited to, depression, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, bipolar disorder, trauma related disorders, and ADHD. So, a little bit about anxiety disorders in youth. Many youth with disabilities experience heightened levels of anxiety due to the difficulties with social interactions, academic pressures, and concerns about their future independence. Conditions such as ADHD and autism spectrum disorder often coexist with emotional and behavioral difficulties, making it difficult for youth to regulate their emotions properly and engage in positive social interactions with their peers. Barriers to support and inclusion. So, challenges that are faced by children and families with disabilities include, but aren't limited to, stigma surrounding disabilities and mental health, lack of accessible community resources, limited school based mental health services, and socioeconomic disparities in care. And we're going to discuss these a little bit more in later slides. So, how do community bridges play a role? So there's four different types of community bridges. There's schools, healthcare providers, families, and community organizations. Schools provide inclusive education, IEPs, and mental health services. Healthcare providers provide early screening, therapy, and medical interventions. And families are advocating for their children. They're providing support at home and they're participating in intervention programs. And then community organizations such as nonprofits, peer support groups, and adaptive recreational activities help to provide a sense of belonging to youth with disabilities. Families, especially, play a critical role in supporting youth, and they often need guidance and resources. So, community partnerships provide parent training programs that help families to navigate mental health and special education services. They provide support groups for caregivers to help reduce stress and to share best practices to best support the youth that they care for. And community outreach initiatives that help to raise awareness about disabilities and mental health. Some strategies for building effective support systems. Building effective support systems for youth with disabilities requires a multifaceted approach that includes family involvement, inclusive education, community resources, and individualized supports, such as interdisciplinary collaboration. So, schools, healthcare professionals, and community leaders all coming together to help provide policies and procedures to help support youth with disabilities. Social and emotional learning, or SEL programs, that help youth to build resilience and self confidence. Training and awareness, community education on disabilities and the mental health to help reduce the stigma surrounding both disabilities and mental health. And then access to resources. So, expanding mental health resources and funding support programs and making sure that despite any socioeconomic disparities, that parents and caregivers have access to the adequate resources to help support the youth that they care for. Technology also plays a vital role in leveling the playing field for youth with disabilities. Tools such as speech to text software, adaptive communication devices, and mobility aids help to enhance accessibility and learning opportunities. Key strategies for community support. Schools serve as a primary support system for children and adolescents with disabilities. Implementing inclusive policies in education, IEPs, and school based mental health services can help to improve their academic success and ensure their emotional well being. Mental health counselors, special education teachers, and peer mentoring programs further provide the necessary social and emotional support. Strong family and peer support systems significantly improve the social and emotional well being of youth with disabilities. Peer mentorship programs foster inclusivity and help to reduce the feelings of isolation that many youth face. Community groups can organize buddy systems that will pair youth with disabilities with supportive peers. So, why do we need community partnerships? So, community partnerships, as I kind of stated earlier, play a vital role in supporting youth by fostering inclusive environments, increasing access to resources, and promoting a holistic well being. Collaborative efforts between schools, healthcare professionals, nonprofit organizations, and families help to address the complex needs of these youth, ensuring they receive comprehensive care and equitable opportunities for success. Many youth with disabilities and mental health challenges face barriers to accessing appropriate care, including financial constraints, stigma, and a lack of specialized providers. Community partnerships help bridge these gaps by integrating mental health services in schools through collaboration with local healthcare agencies, providing assistive technology and accommodations to help improve accessibility, offering mobile or telehealth services for youth in rural or underserved areas. An example of this community partnership is the collaboration between schools and mental health organizations through programs like Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, better known as PBIS, that have been shown to improve student behavior, emotional regulation, and academic performance. So, enhancing the social and emotional support for youth. Youth with disabilities and mental health conditions often experience social isolation and stigma, and community based initiatives can help foster social inclusion and resilience through mentorship programs, pairing youth with trained professionals or peers, extracurricular activities such as adaptive sports or art therapy to help build confidence and social skills, parent and caregiver support groups to help empower families. Examples of these programs are the Best Buddies International and Special Olympics that promote peer relationships between youth with and without disabilities, fostering a sense of belonging. Family and caregiver support. Families and caregivers play a central role in supporting youth. Parental stress and lack of resources can negatively impact a child's mental health, making it essential to provide respite care, counseling, and parent training programs. Support groups and community workshops also can help to empower families with appropriate coping strategies and advocacy skills. Youth with disabilities have very diverse needs depending on the type and severity of their disability, and these needs can range from physical assistance and medical care to educational support, social inclusion, and emotional well-being. So as we've talked about IEPs, and so for school-age youth, they're crucial in outlining their specific learning goals and accommodations to support their educational progress, healthcare, regular medical checkups, therapy, and access to specialists are essential for managing health conditions and promoting the overall well being. Social and emotional support, as we talked about, building social skills, fostering friendships, and addressing emotional challenges are vital for mental health and quality of life. Strengthening school and community collaboration. So, as I mentioned, schools play a pivotal role in identifying and supporting students with disabilities and mental health challenges. So, partnerships with community organizations allow educators to receive professional development on inclusive teaching and trauma informed practices, refer students to external support services such as counseling and therapy, coordinate transition programs to help youth with disabilities to enter the workforce or higher education. An example of this is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that encourages interagency collaboration, ensuring students have access to IEPs that incorporate community resources. So, why have inclusive schools? Inclusive schools help to promote positive peer interactions, reducing the stigma and fostering friendships among students with and without disabilities. These interactions improve social skills, empathy, and emotional well being for all students, preparing them for diverse workplaces and communities. An inclusive education system also reflects the diversity of society, teaching students the value of acceptance and collaboration. When students, whether they have disabilities or they're without disabilities, learn together, they develop essential teamwork and problem solving skills, which are critical in professional and social settings. Advocacy and systematic change. Community partnerships also play a role in advocating for policy changes to help improve resources and protections for youth with disabilities. And this includes legislative efforts to increase funding for mental health services in schools, public awareness campaigns to help reduce the stigma, developing inclusive employment initiatives for young adults with disabilities. Example, the National Alliance on Mental Illness works with education and healthcare institutions to help expand mental health education and policy reforms. So, some policy recommendations. So, increasing federal and state funding for mental health professionals in school. Rationale for this is the recommended ratio is one school psychologist per 500 students, yet many schools have ratios exceeding 1 to 1,500. And this impacts students to ensure that they receive early intervention and ongoing mental health care. Another policy proposal, implementing mental health education as a core subject in schools. This will help to reduce the stigma and encourage help-seeking behaviors amongst youth. Some challenges and solutions. Challenge: limited funding for disability and mental health programs. So, a solution to this would be advocating for policy changes and increased government funding. Another challenge is the lack of trained professionals in schools. A solution could be teacher training programs that focus on mental health and special education. Another challenge: the stigma surrounding disabilities, so community awareness campaigns and inclusive initiatives. And in conclusion, there are four things that no matter what role in the community bridges that you play, there's four things: support, encourage, advocate, and get involved. Support inclusive policies and programs that prioritize mental health for youth with disabilities. Encourage collaboration amongst schools, healthcare providers, families, and communities. Advocate for increased resources and awareness initiatives to help reduce the stigma surrounding disabilities and mental health. Get involved with organizations that support youth with disabilities and mental health challenges. That's my reference list. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation.
Great.